Barbara, Lynn, Miss
Oh, I'm
Toya.
loving that you're Lynn, hey!
We
Hi,
have a lot of
everyone. Welcome.
Catamounts.
Welcome.
Catamounts in the house, Lynn Lazar.
Yay!
Woo!
Hey,
Welcome,
And some
Ellen.
everybody.
tigers too now, Stone. I grew up near them.
And I love you anyway. This Tar Heel loves you anyway, because that's the way we do.
Hey,
And we've got a
Stephanie.
gator, just so you know. I don't mean to out you, Stephanie, if you don't want to be, but Stephanie's a gator. So we love her and we love game. Chomp
But I do
chomp,
have
baby.
I do have a degree from Chapel Hill also. So
Stone loves you more now.
I love you more now. And so does Alan Joseph, Stephanie.
yeah, he wouldn't believe it. I went on to get 2 advanced degrees. So that's he'll love that.
Welcome in, everyone. Thank you so much. I'm loving the energy already. You all know how I love the energy. Welcome to the Skill Up. Me, it, we, training your co-pilot agent. My name is Dr. Samara Galveo, along with my colleague Stephanie Johnson. While we are here, if you don't mind, just popping in the chat where you are joining us from, along with how familiar are you with AI or Copilot, okay? And while we're also there, just a few fun stuff that we have here for you today. It's going to be a hands-on type of skill up. We're going to ask, you can either be on camera or off camera. The choice is yours. We do not discriminate. We love to see your faces, but we also understand if you don't want to be on camera, we appreciate you. But without further ado, at this time, I would like to introduce our fabulous Dr. Meredith, who is going to be our presenter today. Passing down to you, Dr. Meredith.
Hang on just 1 second. I've got to send back Go Heels to Barbara because she is in God's country. If God isn't a Tar Heel, Barbara, why is the sky Carolina blue? I grew up hearing that all my life. Hey, everybody, I'm Dr. Stone Meredith. You're welcome to call me Dr. Meredith, Dr. M. You're welcome to call me Stone, as they say back where we're from. Just don't call me late for supper. We're so glad y'all are here. I've got to tell you the truth. We came in a little early and we've been giggling and laughing about everything from Disneyland to Pamplona, Spain. And we're really excited to get started. And so here's what you need to attend this session. And this is really important. You need to be ready to have a good time. So if you're not ready to have a good time, it might be a long hour. I want to remind you of a couple of things. You're more than welcome to do this work as we go along. But if you say, I want to listen and watch the recording and do my work with my co-pilot agent later, that's okay too, because you're going to get the recording, you'll get the handout, and the prompt that you'll use when you upload your handout and begin doing the work in earnest. That's all going to be included. So it's really up to you. Just so you know, we're all real excited. We've been working on this for a long time. And to tell you a little bit about me, I've been at National about 20 years. I've been in the field for about 26. And my work in scholarship works a lot about around teaching different populations literacy and access to literacy. So outside of National, I work a lot with maybe if I'm teaching younger people, we'll bring in the rest of the folks in their home and kind of teach them all together. If I'm teaching folks at a university level, then we kind of try to make each other aware of where we come from and how we can use writing, maybe not just at school or not just at work or whatever the context I'm teaching them, but how to really make writing um, to help you become a better critical thinker. And so Stephanie and I share several common passions. My scholarship really has involved a lot with critical thinking, critical literacy, regionalism. I've done a lot of single author work with folks like Ernest Hemingway, F. Scott Fitzgerald, Marjorie Kinnan Rawlings. done a lot of work on college writing and cultural studies. I've written about everybody from Elvis Presley and Jimmy Buffett, rest him, and rest our dear Dolly too. Maybe she's next. And I've also written a lot about Aristotle, Plato, and the ancients and how they kind of impact our work today. And as a matter of fact, Dr. Ramon Daines, who runs the Academic Success Series, she's really one of my big buddies in crime. And she and I have recently done some scholarship at a conference over the summer about how maybe our times today aren't that different from how they were in Plato's time. And so as we get started, I want to tell you, and I promise sometimes you're like, is this coming to a point? I'm just going to ask that y'all trust me because it is going to come to a point. So I don't know if anybody's been living under a rock, but if you have, there's a new version of Homer's Odyssey that's out. And y'all in New York City, one of my friend's son paid $175 to go see that. So we didn't pay that much in Largo, Florida, but I know that the IMAX is having a renaissance, so the kind of idea of the ancient world is in the conversation. And when we get to training Stephanie's CoPilot, Stephanie, we're going to dive back into that. But to set the stage a little bit, AI, some people love it, some people don't. But I always like to say it's not like Santa Claus. You can't choose to believe in it or not. Child, it's here. And so together we want to work about doing a kind of a lot of the work really of what Socrates, bless him, didn't end so well for him. They put him to death for some of his ideas, and we don't live in that world. But we're real fortunate that his student Plato came along after him. And not only did he tell us a lot of what Socrates said, he wrote some of it down. And Plato's day is a lot like our day, except it's exactly backwards. So in Plato's day, it's part of that oral tradition, which is what the Odyssey that maybe you've seen if you've gone to see the new version of the Odyssey. It comes out of that oral tradition. It was written down for a long time. What wasn't written down for a long time? If you've seen the film, they beat the stick and they would tell the story and it was passed down for generations. And then most modern scholars agree at some point Homer wrote it down. And he did that. It's really debatable, but sometime in the late 8th or early 7th century BCE, if you're as old as I am, we grew up here in BC, but now they say BCE, same thing. But they wrote it down. And then sometime later, Plato's going to come around and he's going to write this thing called the Phaedrus. And in his time, they were still wrestling with y'all, should we write things down or not? And people that do what I do for a living, I'm not saying I'm Plato, but we were in the same department. They were really getting worried because people were starting to write stuff down. And he, at his academy, which is where our academy concept comes from, he got to noticing that people couldn't remember stuff once they wrote it down. They were having to go back and read it. Now, they had a whole host of other problems. Not a lot of people could read. Women weren't even allowed to. So there's a whole other cadre of problems. But our point today is back in those days, and with Plato, you're really looking at 370 BCE. So we've gone a few hundred years forward. They're still wrestling with that idea. AI came on us a little quicker, right, from the early 2000s to now. But he says, y'all, we've got to be careful of this because if we start writing stuff down, it's going to hurt our memory. How are we going to do this? And so he writes this thing called the Phaedrus. And he comes up with this imaginary God who comes down and says, I'm going to give you this great power and you can write stuff down. And the king in the story has a dialogue where this concept of dialogic going back and forth comes from. Says, y'all, I don't know if that's a good idea. And so they have a conversation about it. And so that's really where our Western idea of dialogic or dialogue in education comes from. And spoiler alert, in case you want to go back and read Plato, Plato lost and everybody started writing stuff down. Okay. And so we have lived really since, say, 300 BC with that real move forward in Western education to write things down. So fast forward where we are today, and here comes the point. We're on the other side of that coin now. We're a culture that's always written things down. And linguists will tell you when you write something down, or you type it, or you speak it. You've put that through your brain in 3 different ways. So for over 2,000 years, Western human beings have been pretty good at getting it in the old noggin. And we've also had that concept. If we forget, we can go back and read and take notes like I do in these notebooks. Okay? So it's been working pretty well. And then here comes AI. And I'll tell you what we're noticing. I don't even know what Plato would say. I don't think he would see it as, see, I told you so. I think he would see it as, man, we got to look at this again, because here's what's happening. You can go into AI and say, tell me blah, 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 and it tells you blah, 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 but you're not in there anywhere except the question you asked. And so we're doing this training, me, it, and we, to kind of make sure that we learn from what Plato said. Anytime we change the way we put stuff in our brains, we've got to pause as a group and as a culture and make sure that we keep the me in there, because without the me in there, there's really no we. So the same way he was worried about losing weight before, we're worried about it now. Before we get started, my final point, I want to let you all know that you're Plato's children. It takes a lot of courage to come in here and be a scholar. Everybody on this call doesn't have something else they could be doing, at least laundry, right? Everybody couldn't have spent this money and time something else, right? I know I could. But here's the thing. There's something inside you that makes you believe that you can learn and give something back with what you learn. And that's where Plato's Academy started. Think of how many more people in this culture in the United States, everyone's welcomed into this academy, but you chose to be here. You chose to become a scholar and to make the sacrifice to do what it takes to put yourself into the history of the Homeric tradition of Homer's ideas and Plato's ideas. You are now a part of the knowledge pool, and every day that you come to National, you continue that sacrifice and you continue his legacy. So it's not a guilt trip, it's a fact. It is now your responsibility to pick up that mantle, to thank them for getting you here, and now to do our part in making sure that future generations understand through your archive where the me, the it, which is the agent, come together to create this new information, and the we. Everybody ready to go? Let's do it. So our goals for today are to understand what me, it, we means. And really it's a process of critical thinking with this AI generative agent. What is an AI generative agent? It's an AI tool that will help generate stuff. But that stuff is going to be driven by what you tell it to do. And that's what we're going to work on. We're going to practice it. And what we're going to do today, if you want to participate, fine. If you don't, we can watch Stephanie. We're going to train Stephanie on her CoPilot agent, where she's going to put in a handout for me at We that you're all going to have access to and see. She's going to put it in her CoPilot agent. She's going to put in the appropriate guardrails. And then we're going to learn a little bit about Homer. Before we leave, we'll plan and process, and then you'll go back to your lives, and I'll be grateful for your time. Next slide. So the question of where do I begin and where does AI end? Now that you know kind of the history of Western ideas and how you fit into it, you see over 2,000 years, it's pretty ingrained to us what it means to write it down. And so today I really want you to think of, how do I make sure it gets in there in the first place? Where do I begin and where does AI end? Well, that depends, right? It depends on what the faculty allows. It depends on what your boss allows. But I want you to think today about what you will allow and what do I want for myself. When you go into your classrooms, when you go into the workplace, they're going to tell you what they're going to allow. But this is about you and you capturing the history of your ideas and you making them your own. Next slide. So we're going to pause for a second, and you might want to try this as we go. If you have not logged into CoPilot, you're where I was at the beginning of the summer. It's not that big of a deal. The good news is that National, it's free. There's so many reasons I encourage you to do it inside National, inside your NU email account. For one thing, it's walled. For another thing, it connects out to everything you have going on because it's walled. And then for the third reason, no matter how familiar you are or aren't with AI, I'm sorry if it's a repeat, but once you create a chat, it's archived. And this is really the big piece, right? You want to be able to create that archive the way that Plato and his students created the archive with their notes. Because when you're doing it in the moment, and social media and technology and the phone make us think we're always going to remember it, but sometimes an hour later or 6 months later, you're like, oh, yeah, what was that? CoPilot chats will capture that for you. So you can keep that chat going as long as you want. You can begin a new chat, and at any point, you can go back in and remember, literally put it back together. And so that's one of the main reasons we're using that feature today. So you'll see you can log into your NU email, and there's a nice little picture that my precious son made for us today where you see what it looks like. You click on your CoPilot logo in the navigation bar, and then in your new conversation, you click the plus. Stephanie, are you with us getting this? You click the plus to begin a new conversation. And then our handout, the me, it, we paragraph development process. And you get an idea of what that handout looks like. It's a Word document that you're going to want to upload, but the key piece is coming. So here's what's going to happen. I'm just going to go ahead and, I love a spoiler alert. I watch too much reality TV. But here's the spoiler alert. If you just put that handout in there, let me tell you what's going to happen. CoPilot's real eager to please. And so it's just going to fill it out real quick and tell you everything. That's not what we want. So the real essence of this session is to tell you, here's a great handout. You can use it on your own. You can print it out on a piece of paper and put it in this notebook and write it by hand. You can talk. Remember, we talked about all those different ways of getting it in your brain. You can type it in a Word document, or you can put it in your CoPilot agent. And every time you play with these ideas, you're ingraining it in your own brain. But to make sure that, and while she's doing this, I'm going to continue a little bit more, to make sure that CoPilot doesn't take over and doesn't tell you what you think, because y'all, if you're tired at 2 o'clock in the morning, it's tempting. I've been tempted. If you're in a hurry and you just forget, if you are not familiar with AI and you're like, now what did she say? I can't get the link to load. I'm just going to go ahead and try it. For so many reasons, we want to make sure we put guardrails in. And so a key point of this session is to introduce you to CoPilot, but also introduce you to the idea of guardrails, because it's always important to remember that CoPilot's not a person. You can name him Fred if you want to, or Susie, but it's not a person. It's a binary system. It's a tool, right? And so it's going to give you back what you tell it to give you back. And so, Stephanie, if you're ready, we'll go to the next thing. Here's the key piece. Ding, 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 red line. If you're taking notes, circle this slide. Circle it right now. I believe this is slide 4. This is the prompt that you must put in to succeed with this tool. Paste this prompt into CoPilot, and I think it's so important, y'all, I want to read it to you. I am using the attached me, it, we handout to document my learning process. I want to stop you right there. You're telling this thing, this tool, the same way you would tell Google, this is what I'm using it for. You can also go in there and say, I am using the me, it, we handout to help me figure out how to communicate with my daughter's school administration. You can tell it whatever you want to do, but the minute you start telling CoPilot what your purpose is, then CoPilot puts itself in that gear, right? It puts itself in that gear from whatever it's been taught in the large language model of whatever's been entered into it. So there's another case why you want to use your CoPilot inside National, because our tool has been fed by university level peer-reviewed ideas, right? If you go to a different tool, it's been fed by different large language models and it has different parameters. You know, in CoPilot, when you say to this CoPilot agent in this walled system, I am using the attached me, it, we, you handout to document my learning process. Me, my original thoughts, experiences, and questions. It, information, explanations, examples, and suggestions from CoPilot. And then we, my revised thinking after reviewing the it section. Okay. Here's the key. Help me keep me and it separate. Provide only the it section when I ask questions. Do not complete the we section. Leave we blank for me to complete. After I finish a we section, prompt me either to start a new thread or write a new me statement. Does it sound like I'm talking to somebody in kindergarten? I think that's what I try to think of when I'm talking, especially to CoPilot, because CoPilot is your new assistant. And if that new assistant goofs up, honey, it's going to take you a long time to get it fixed. And you are busy bee. Here's another truth about AI. Once you put something in and start training it, it's in there. And so if you goof up, it's not that it's a big deal. It's that you've got to go back. Hey, I know I didn't tell you this before, but listen to me. When I put in this handout, don't fill out anything but it. And once I complete the me and it part, or me and we part, I need you to prompt me again. So that's the other good part. AI is going to do what you tell it, but at any point, you're the boss. You say, this is not what I wanted. I need you to go in and do this instead. And I'm going to tell you, this is why I say kindergarten. Sometimes you got to tell them 3 or 4 times, and that's okay. You wouldn't holler at a little child for getting it wrong, and you wouldn't get frustrated and give up on a little child for getting it wrong. So that's why my computer hadn't ended up in Tampa Bay, because I've been able to say, this is a little child, and I can't throw my computer in the ocean. I've got to try again, because it's not the computer who needs to learn how to communicate and have that dialogue in the Platonic sense. It's me. I've got to keep giving this thing commands until it can cipher what I'm saying. And in a very short amount of time, you will see it picks up on your dialects and it will start sounding like you. All right, what do you think, Stephanie? Are you ready to do it?
Yeah, I think I'm ready to do it. Just got to hit this little arrow right here.
All right, did everybody see what's going on? As she does that, are there any questions? Because as y'all have learned, I'm a talker.
And I did, Dr. M, I did put everything into the chat so they have the document as well as the prompt.
Well, of course you did.
Just so you know.
Of course you did, and we thank you so much. If there are no questions, let's take a peek at the next slide, because this is where the juice comes in and where we're going to start gossiping on Homer. So let's take a look at the handout. I really think it's important for you to look at that subheading, a writer's planning tool for building academic body paragraphs. So it's not my culture to be a horn tooter for myself, but if you're wondering what I mean by academic body paragraphs, you're certainly encouraged to go to the ASC. I've done a couple of meal plan presentations before, so I talk about body paragraphs for academic writers in terms of main idea, evidence, analysis, and then maybe a link to the next paragraph. And I talked about paragraphs, the meal plan, isn't that cute? Like a little snack of ideas. I talked about that, the paragraphs in that way for about 25 years. And then, Lord, here came CoPilot. And so this is really a continuation of the goal that we're still building those meal plans. And that sounds right, right? Oh, that's what I'm doing in all my classes when I write a discussion posting, when I write a section of a paper, the body, here's a heading and then here's a bunch of body paragraphs that sound like that meal plan. So if you want to learn more about that, please do take a peek at those past 2 sessions that I know one of them's posted in the ASC. But for now, I really want you to understand that for today's work and what I'm encouraging you to use it for as Anders and scholars is this idea that you're going to train your co-pilot with the idea that you will write a main idea, cited evidence, and you will analyze that. And it sounds very much like me, it, we, doesn't it? So same concept, but that is the product. Right now, we're back worrying about what Plato does, where it's like life's more than an artifact. We've got to pay attention to how we do that process, or we're not going to have a very good product. So, irony is a funny thing. You have to be able to see it to find it funny. And it's a funny thing, 2,500 years later, that we can't get to the product until we reinvent our process. And so this is a new process for all of us to use, with the idea that we're going to use what we learn here to join that conversation in academic writing. And at NU, it'll of course all be in APA format. Main idea in third person, so no I think this or I think that. Cited evidence in APA format. And then again, that analysis where you tie yourself to the source in third person, and a link out to the next paragraph if you need it. Okay, so before we get to the meal, let's do the prep work. You'll see the purpose is to help writers move from a personal understanding to evidence-based academic writing, and it encourages reflection, critical analysis while supporting development. And if you're interested more in how that iterative process works and going from here to the paragraph plan, you can also go into the ASC and take a look at the BAI Agile framework and some of the other great frameworks. And I want everybody on here to understand that when you work with Dr. G or with Stephanie, it's all grounded in that same way of learning where it's iterative. That process where it all loops around, and once you get through it, if you get down to point 3, you can go back, but it's a circular process where we always want to be continuing and growing. And so all the tools in the library and the ASC are grounded in this same model. So the process begins with the writer's own thinking, and this is a gift, one of the many, however you want to look at it. This is a gift from AI. So many of us get to about 7th grade if you live in an urban area. And if you live in a more rural area, depending on your county's funding, it may be 8th or 9th grade. So many of us get to that age, and talking in first person is bad and not allowed, and hit this rubric, and here's how you get rid of I, and here's how you get to third person. And it's necessary, especially for a lot of our disciplines here, because language makes it impossible to separate yourself from your own perspective. And so we go back to the ancients again, where they give us rhetoric and writing and linguistics tools to help us do that. So we start teaching our young people very early in that age range to separate themselves from their personal feelings when they write, so that we can be objective and we can create new knowledge. And that's really helpful, except for one thing happens. A lot of us, and I know I was one of them, I was a journalist before I did this, so no opinion Nancy over here for so long. But what happens is that you can really lose what you may have heard some teachers say to you along the way. Where's your voice? And so AI has given us back that ability to find our voice again. And that voice is what this me step is important for. And it's where we can get back what Plato knew we were going to lose. All those things you lose 7th, 8th, 9th grade, claim it and take it back and teach your children and your parents and your grandparents right now. When you go into this me, you can't turn this in, and you don't need to. But this is where you can say, I just think this assignment's too hard. And I thought I was taking this class for this and that and the other, but we're supposed to look at X. And I thought I was going to be studying Y. And this is all I really know about X, but I need to get over here. And my goal is really to connect it to Y. Whatever you really think. This is the one place in your life that I'm aware of where you don't have to impress anybody. You don't need any confidence. This, again, back to reality TV, this is that confessional where they're sitting there in their best jewelry and they just let it all go because they're so freaked out. This is that. This is where it's really important, if this is going to work, for you to be yourself and tell the truth. I haven't done the reading. I'm kind of guessing, but I think it means this, because let me tell you why. When you do that, you get all kind of stuff that nobody ever thought of before. You know, and it happened to me recently when I was trying to work with some folks who were doing some stuff with biomedical engineering. I mean, I don't know what that is. And I don't even remember what the last math class I took was, right? So they were talking about this term, and I said, gosh, you know, and I was kind of trying to work on it and be ready to work with them and to coach them. And I said, I don't know what it is. For me, it kind of makes me think of kind of like Devo and the music from the 80s. And it turns out the guy who came with the idea was a big punk fan. And so then I had something to say. And even though I came from a completely different discipline, I was able to share that with them. And they thought it in a totally different way. And one of the young people, she came back to me and she said, I got on that test and I remembered where it was on the chart in the 80s because of the idea you came up with. And I was able to go in there and line everything up. So this is a real opportunity for who you are and your talents and your wins and your losses and everything that made who you are today give you ideas that we're going to miss if you don't sit down and tell the truth right here. So a lot of benefits to telling the truth. Nobody's ever going to see it but you unless you share it. It gets that fear, and I don't know this, and I've already confessed. I'm a big confessor. I don't know if you are. And then you're open and ready to learn because you've put on the table where you are. So you put in the me, you gather the it, and then that big critical thinking piece is your gift for being honest with yourself. When you get to that third piece, that's the critical thinking we're getting ready to see with Stephanie's kindness and willingness to share, because that's where the critical thinking work kicks in, where you got to say, who do I trust and who do I don't? Let's do it, Stephanie. So we'll take a real quick look at this. Understood. I will follow the process. Isn't that sweet, y'all? So she's ready to go. Let's see what the slide is asking us to ask, because everybody is in the same position and you can follow along. You can do it later. You can do our topic, or let's see what our slide is asking us to ask today, because I've got some loaded questions. I'm going to go ahead and load Stephanie up with the question we're going to ask. So our topic, I happen to know that Stephanie is reading the Odyssey. And if I didn't take my notes wrong, you're reading the Emily Wilson 2017 version. Is that true? Okay. So with that said, we're going to talk about what? Now, Stephanie, this is going to be your choice. We know that we're talking about the Odyssey. We know that you're reading the 2017 translation, the first female translation of a text that's all those thousands of years old. So what's your topic? And with that said, what do you want to ask to start training your agent, Stephanie?
Oh, you didn't tell me I was going to have to play like this. Let's see. Let's talk about the voyage itself and ship type of, lanes and the shipping, you know what I mean? Like way back then.
Okay, now everybody tell me, did she get the answer right or wrong? There's no wrong answer. Another gift from AI. That's what she's interested in. I think y'all can guess I would have gone in a completely different direction, and that would have given us one thing to add to the knowledge pool. The reason I didn't tell her is because what did she do? She was like, oh my gosh, let me just tell the truth. And look what happened. She's given a whole new thread to the conversation. Nobody heard me talk about shipping. we would have missed this opportunity if she hadn't just come up and said, let's talk about shipping. Okay, so in the Homeric, are we talking about, we'll narrow the question as we go. We're talking about shipping in Homer's Odyssey or in that period, or what do you think?
Yeah, I think just in that maybe we talk about it with regards to Homer to the Odyssey. Yeah.
Okay. And while you're typing that in, I want to say to everybody, you can do it alone or you can do it with somebody else. You can get on the phone and say, hey, man, I'm sitting in my CoPilot and blah, blah, blah. I'm thinking of this. And I say, I don't know, Stephanie, what do you think about this? And look already how a dialogue between colleagues helped her narrow the question. Could she have just said shipping and Homer and gotten somewhere? For sure. But look how the dialogue with a colleague has already focused in on her topic. So while it can be totally private, this is one of those great things where you can get one of your buddies on the phone, even cooler, which I certainly did with my son. You can get your kids on the phone, or you can get your kids next to you, and it'll certainly entertain them for a little while. You can bring your parents in. It's really up to you who helps you craft this. Okay, so she said, I think it would be really interesting to look at the shipping industry in Homer's Odyssey. Specifically, I'd like to focus on the 2017 translation. Let's see what happens, y'all.
Copilot's like, I wouldn't have thought of that.
See? See? If I could think, I never would have thought of that. Okay, now see what happened. Do y'all mind if I just read it out loud just to make sure everybody can see it? Your ideas your idea has strong potential because the Odyssey is not only a story about a hero's journey, but also a text deeply connected to ancient seafaring. And that's another thing. AI is always going to gas you up and tell you how smart you are. I really love that part. That can be dangerous, but in general, after a long day, it's nice. About seafaring trade, transportation, and maritime labor. In the 2017 translation by Emily Wilson, we love her, even though maybe the director of the film didn't. Ships are central to the movement of people, goods, information, and power throughout the poem. Wilson's translation highlights the physical realities of travel and the navigation while maintaining clear contemporary style. Possible angles. Wow, ships as economic infrastructure, shipbuilding and maritime labor, shipping, risks and commerce, hospitality, search terms. Wow. So I want to pause for a minute, and I know, time runs no matter what I wish for. But let me ask you something. How do you feel about this? Is this cheating? Is this something you could have gotten going to Google, which, the world's been real comfortable with that for a long time? Is this something you could have gotten going to the library? And if anybody knows what the Dewey Decimal System is, well, sure you could have, right? Thank you, Lynn. Lynn remembers. Sure you could have. So my question to you is this, and you have the answer. Is this cheating? Is this using the technology we live in to get someplace faster? Well, I'm going to tell you something I do think, and that I know that the university agrees with. It all kind of depends on what you do with it, right? So we're in the note taking, the idea generating process. If she goes in and says, hey, y'all, I was sitting by myself with a pen and paper and look what I thought up. That's not great, right? That's kind of, what they used to call back in the olden days lying, right? Because the real truth is that's something that she generated an idea with. And I'm guessing, just y'all don't know this, but she's reading this text. And I'm guessing that that's a theme that's been back in her freezer. And on the spot, it kind of popped out. Because if you've not read the poem, the talk of the shipping, and as a sailor myself, there are just passages where you can just go get lost, and where they talk about the shipping and they talk about what it means, and in particular when he finally gives in, and how it talks about the ocean and the small craft he's on. So you could see how that was in her freezer and it came out. And now this technology, what might have taken us a week to do in the library if she was in a good enough to get it, is right here. So I can't answer those questions for you. I can tell you that ethical use of AI means that we have to do it. Look at this, leave blank for you to complete. So everybody as a group, let's take a look, Stephanie. What do we want to do next? Look at this source information. There it is. There's Emily Wilson sidling right up to the old Norton folks, trying to keep them in business for another year. And you'll notice also there's that link out to Wikipedia, right? Is anybody old enough to remember when you weren't allowed to use that because maybe it wasn't credible? And now, honey, that's the one of the most credible ones in the bunch. So things change over time, right? So it really opens the door for you to do a lot of things here. And which one would be wrong? That's really up to you, right? Because this gets back to the beauty of this tool. Let's say she clicks on Wikipedia, or let's say she picks the theme to go on to next. Doesn't matter if she likes where it goes, because she's got that archive, so she can always go back, right? Whatever she picks, she can go back tomorrow, or she can go back 6 months from now.
Dr.
So,
M, I'm
yes.
sorry. I wanted to just let you know that in the chat is going, it has a question for you, but it's also very engaging right now. It's saying that they love this approach. I feel like it's a thought process, a thought partner that you can access anytime, a lightning fast response. And then Lynn says she's a former librarian. Thank you. We love librarians. Then we have a scholar that says, feeling good about this tool. So
Oh,
just
that's great.
wanted to share that, but we will come back, circle around to the question that they have here.
Yes, no, please share the question.
Okay, so Cynthia says, thank you for this outstanding organization tool. Whose intellectual property is this? Is it yours, NU's, or ASC's?
Well, since you asked, my family has a not-for-profit called the Clever Chicas Project, cleverchicas.com. And this is part of the work that we do to help celebrate ordinary women doing extraordinary things. And so we are a not-for-profit. Everybody involved donates their time. And so it's a fair use project. Oh, thank you, Stephanie. It's a fair use product, so to speak, because we create intellectual property to increase literacy, responsible literacy in our culture. And it's also in the ASC now. So thank you for asking. So beautiful that you're understanding those ideas. I know Plato'd hug your neck if he could. And so thank you for asking. I'm really glad you're enjoying it. Anything else before we gave Stephanie a minute? I feel like I owe Stephanie like a big, huge Starbucks or whatever she likes. We were told it's forbidden to use AI. I'm not sure how this works with CoPilot. I saw that because I was wondering if somebody was going to bring it up. And thank you, Rosa. And so if everybody doesn't mind, before we let Stephanie do it again, just so we have time to see how it works again, because I think that's really important. Rosa, you bring up a great point. And so, just so you know, I love NU. That's probably pretty obvious. And Dr. Ramon Daines, who is the director of the Academic Success Center, and I work on a lot of AI projects, which is how I was fortunate enough to get this opportunity to be here today. And so we have an AI council where we work to educate folks on tools. And there's a new kind of way of explaining when you can and can't use stuff. It's called Raise 5. And so if you'll go to the Academic Success Center and look on AI, their AI tools, and click that link, you'll see Raise 5 explained. Now, you may or may not be seeing those in your classes yet, but that's a university-wide project that Ramon and I have been so honored to work on and to get going. But I can tell you this, while that Raise 5, and just for everybody on the call, what it is there's 5 levels where you can and can't use AI. So we're really working to get to the point where you'll be able to log into your classroom and you'll be able to go, oh, that's a 3, I can do blah, blah, blah. But until that point, I would really, first of all, celebrate you, Rosa, and be grateful that you're the caliber of Ander we're attracting, because you're our future. And I'm so grateful. Seeing you ask that makes me feel, again, like I'm working in the right place. But I would just really encourage you to be honest. I know a lot of folks in your college, and they're really top drawer people. If you ever get a chance to work with Pat Beneke, take it because she's amazing. She was a sitting judge forever. I work with her a lot. But I would really encourage you to go to your faculty and say, hey, I went to this session. Here's the handout they gave me. I'm using it for my critical thinking process. Can you help me understand where this begins and ends? And I'll tell you the reason I say that. Nobody knows what AI is going to be at 5 o'clock today, much less by the time you get out of your program. We do know that there's a lot of case law being decided right now, um, all over the place. California is certainly seeing a lot of them in their court system. So New York, Florida, California, and Texas are where we're seeing a lot of case law. And of course, on a federal level, it's going to plop right down in Washington, D.C. So we do know those conversations are ongoing on what AI use means and where it will be used. And I can tell you that our university, led by our president Milliron, we err on the side of caution, because that's what responsible scholars do. And so I would really encourage you and your colleagues to go to your faculty and have that honest conversation, because that's what we on AI Council are doing. Honey, nobody knows. The courts don't know. Certainly the developers don't know. Do you read some of that stuff going on? And so I think the best thing to do is for you to be the leader you are by asking that question and go in and say, hey, I learned this. Let's have a conversation about what to do with it. And if we can ever support you in any way, Rosa, we sure would be proud to do it. Anybody else? Okay, Stephanie, are you still speaking to me?
Currently.
We're going to see what happens. All right, now I'm going to put you on the spot. And because we're seeing how the brain works, we're seeing what happens. And we're seeing what happens when you just spit it out, and the power of doing what Stephanie let herself do and had the courage to do it in front of all y'all. See, at least you don't have to do that. Stephanie, there's no way to get it wrong. So I'm going to tell you to either choose something you care about or throw a dart, and let's refine our next question. And I'm going to ask you something. What has it said? It hadn't said to do anything, right? It just said leave blank and compete. Here's the really important piece. How are you going to talk to this agent? She's just training it on these handouts, and you've got some choices. You can say, thank you very much. I really appreciate this. I'd like to try the handout again. Appreciate your sources. Hope you're having a lovely day. Blah, 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 blah. Some people need to talk a little bit to get down to their ideas. And if you're one of those people, do it. Or you can just come in and say, I want to do a new prompt on this handout. I would like to take point 3 as my me and have you do it again. So this is where we're really going to learn a lot about Stephanie, but I really want you to consider yourself. What is my voice? Does it take me a few sentences to write something before I feel comfortable and get right to the point? Or am I used to that business world where I just spit it out? Or am I somewhere in between? Because it's important to remember that agent's learning from you. So it's going to start talking back the way you talk to it. And again, we can change that at any time. See, I figured she was going to be, thank you. I appreciate the information. However, I'd like to start a new me. I think I would like to look deeply into the family dynamics in the Odyssey 2017 translation. Oh, that's so cool. Okay. Wow. Family dynamics are one of the richest areas of study. Yeah, Wilson, really. She does such a beautiful job, spoiler alert, with the women. And that's where she really came under a lot of fire and where she really got mad about the movie because she thought maybe some of that stuff was maybe filmed more for the actress than the text. Sorry, can AI hear me? I don't want it to absorb any of my knowledge. Okay, family dynamics are one of the richest things in the translation. Wilson describes the poem as being concerned with marriage, family power, and the yearning for home, which means family relationship are not merely background from the story, but are central to its action. Possible research angles. And Rosa, I think that's where what you were getting at. Is this fair and ethical use? or do I need to stay away from it? And so I'm glad to see that you're going to be on it and help shape our future in that way, the way Plato's students in the academy did. Okay, and so what do we see again? I want you to notice, and that's why I wanted to do it at least twice. We're starting to see a pattern. This is not your AI, this is not your topic, right? But what are we seeing? We're already starting to recognize the pattern. Predictability is a big thing when you're trying to save time in research, right? And so finally, the third little Easter egg gift, to use a Taylor Swift thing, like a Swiftie. Here's your third Easter egg. Here's the third gift. AI creates patterns. We call it parallelism in writing. I like to run, to walk, and to read is easier to decode than I like to run, walking, and having a bicycle in my garage. I like to run, to walk, and to read. Hear that parallel structure? AI can't help but be parallel because it's an it and not a we, right? It's a thing. And so already you could predict this pattern. If I had said to you, I'll give you $5 if you can tell me what it's going to do, you could guess it's going to give a summary, some points, and I bet there's a source at the bottom. Look at that. Look at that. I'm glad I didn't put that bet out because I can give myself $5, right? Okay. So what are we seeing? We're seeing a lot of things. We're seeing that we told this agent what to do and what not to do. So we know going in, we've set up ethical use in an academic environment. We went in and we said, here's how I'm using it. Here's what I'm using it for. I only want you to do these things, and here's what I want back from you. It did those things. It gave her ideas, and then she went, skirt. Why did she go skirt? Who knows? And at this point in her academic research process, who cares? If she hadn't just spit it out, she would not have gotten here. And that's what I really want everybody to see today. In this world of technology everywhere, of constant, look here, Google here, hit this, go in here, respond to that, just on these darn things. You're still in there. Think how well you know Stephanie now. What do we know about her? We know she's respectful to her agent. We know she's quick on her feet. And we know that she's willing to go in and create this kind of friendly, ethical dialogue. If you were to call her now, you wouldn't be like, hey, what are you doing? Blah, 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 because you have learned her cadence just from watching her, right? You're going to learn that about yourself too. And this is one of those great things we used to have back in the 70s and 80s when I was coming up. It's one of them, they're wrongless assignments. You can't get it wrong because it's you. It's what makes you different. Stephanie's CoPilot could never be like mine, even if we did the same questions and put in the same information, because my experience in the walled garden at NU is different. My experience with Homer is different, even though we have a lot of the same academic ancestors who gave us our education. Isn't that crazy? So nobody's can or will ever be the same. This is what makes you you. This is what makes you valuable. And this is why you're staying up all the time. This is why you're missing soccer games. This is why you're buying the stuff on the clearance instead of the new. This is why you're looking for BOGOs at the grocery store. This is why. Because you are now a part of that tradition. You are now a part of the tradition that started way before Homer ever wrote it down, where we have this combination all these thousands of years later of we share things orally, we write things down, we type things, and now we partner with AI when and where it's appropriate so that we control the knowledge pool. We put ourselves in the knowledge pool because whatever CoPilot can or can't do, it cannot be the essence of you. Your sacrifices matter. And on a larger message, our culture needs you now more than ever. And now you have a tool to help make sure that you can track where you start and when you get to that finish line, how you got there. We have a few minutes for questions. Oh, I love that. I see that, Stephanie, you're known as the librarian angel. And now, you know who she's known, CoPilot, she's known as the Homer Scholar.
My co-pilot and I are going to have some interesting conversations moving forward, I'm sure.
Yes. And, and imagine the joy you'll have reading, knowing that you got that conversation and knowing what popped out of your freezer from while you're reading. Again, it's just such a rich experience.
I really like how you took it and made it more than just this is what it's saying. It's also about this is where it came from within me as a scholar.
Yes.
I think that's the part that we often miss is that we are putting so much into it, but when we pause and say, okay, now for the we, what do we get from it? What do we see? How does that combine with what we talked about to begin with? Thank you for introducing that because I think that makes a huge difference in how we look at the AI in and of itself.
Thank you so much, because that's my goal. Lynn?
So we have, I'm sorry, we have a question in the comments. Oh my God. We have a question. We have a question in the chat before we can address that before we call Miss Lynn, if that's okay. It says if the handout template, if they could share it.
Oh, absolutely. Ramon, can you put the link, or is the link where it is in the ASC, or I don't know how, I'm not sure how it's. Thank
And
you.
and they also want to know if is there an AI training you recommend for students?
Since you asked, this is our first in a session, and again, it gets back to that AI council. We're in the process of really starting to roll out at least a couple of these a month, and I think y'all are really going to love meeting the diverse voices that come across the NU family to share ideas, and they'll all build together. So, for example, and Ramon's just put we, she just put that link in if everybody can see it. But I think you'll really see, like, one of the things I talked about was that BAI Agile that's already posted up now. Raise Five's already posted now. You'll see increasing information and increasing sessions like this coming out. And please do stay tuned. I love that you asked that. Please do stay tuned because there's much more to come. There'll be a lot more training. And just so you know, in the next hour, the faculty boot camps are starting. And so, what faculty are learning are really paralleling with what we're learning, because the way things work at National, everybody works together, faculty, staff, administrators, Anders, on all of our leadership committees. And so, we've all come together and said, let's seesaw together. If Anders learn it, faculty learn it. If Anders learn it, faculty learn it. And Dr. Ramon Daines, who runs our ASC, and in partnership with a bunch of people like me, part-time faculty, the president, the provost, department chairs, everybody. We all come together to deliver that. So yes, much more coming, and I'm really excited to hear that you want to see it because we're pretty on fire about it. Lynn?
Thank you, Stone and Stephanie. Thank you for being brave and put on the Spottable. I think this is a great introduction for us to think about how we are approaching AI. I know I get frustrated sometimes when I will give specific directions, and prompting is such an important part of what you do with an AI. But giving it this kind of a prompt, this is a wonderful thing to help me refine how I think about it, and also to put some hands-off spots for the AI to help us move forward. And I also love, Stone, that it's not wrong. We can't do it wrong. We're moving forward and we're all learning it. And so thank y'all all very much for putting this together. Stone, Ramon, Stephanie, everybody who was involved in this, Dr. G, I don't know who all had a part in it, but thank you very much.
Well, I'd like to take that and tell everybody, and you go get them in the faculty boot camp, Dr. Lazaro. Thank you so much. I just want to say that Dr. G and Stephanie have really made this experience possible. We were having a conversation before we came in about how there's no sorries. We want to come in and be ourselves, and we really did do that. We got to know each other first, and we shared all kinds of things that people might have come in and thought, what are y'all even doing? But I can tell you what we were doing. We were getting to know each other as people. And when you get to know each other as people, you can get to know each other and share ideas. I cannot tell you how proud I am to be with Stephanie and Dr. G because they paved the road for this. They work with Anders and they work with faculty and they work with administrators and staff all day long, and they had a lot of experience, and they welcomed me with open arms and took me as I was. And, not everybody, I'm a little different than some. They were excited to see it. And so I would just encourage everybody on the call that when you see them again, and hopefully, if you see the three of us again, but when you see their names, go in knowing that you're with two women and two scholars who have done the hard work and have the knowledge behind them to come to you with open hearts and open hands, trust and knowledge. It'll be a good time, and you'll leave better than you were when you came. Thank you so much, everyone.
Well, thank you, Dr. Stone, Dr. Meredith, Dr. M, however they choose to call you today. We appreciate you. We appreciate your presentation. This was fabulous. I learned so much. I have my notebook here full of notes, right? And I can't wait.
Me too.
Yes, I cannot wait to share this with other scholars and let them know that this will be available. This was also recorded, everyone, and we appreciate the fact that this will be shared with you once we are finished. And also, there will be a survey in the end after this. If you don't mind, please take a couple of minutes to go ahead and finish it for us. Take a couple of minutes. We appreciate you. And as always, we thank you from the bottom of our hearts for being here today. We've learned so much. Until next time, you guys have a great rest of your afternoon, morning. Thank you. Bye-bye, y'all.
Bye, everybody.
Be well, y'all.
Bye-bye.